Yeah, cool, it just turns. Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and if you're new to my channel, I hope you stick around and consider subscribing. I put new videos every week on some Jaguar and classic car related content, and today we're going to have a look at my daily driver. It's a 1975 XJ6, and I've had a slight breakdown. Luckily I got home with no issues at all. It was late on Thursday, this is on the weekend now. Thursday night I picked up my daughter from daycare. Came home and I was noticing on the way back, I had the heater on, medium fans, I had windshield wipers on, and I had main beams on because it was dark out. And I noticed that the battery gauge just kept going lower and lower and lower and starting to go into the red. So when I came home, I got a multimeter out right away. Fortunately I didn't film this, it was completely dark, I was outside, and I checked and I just had 12 volts. So something was up with the alternator. If you remember earlier, if you've been following along earlier in the summer, I had some alternator issues as well. And I replaced the alternator with a used one. A good friend of the channel supplied me with 2 used alternators that should be working. I fit one of them, the one that could fit the fastest because it was clocked the right way. It was meant to fit one of these cars because the alternators are different if you have AC or not because they fit in different locations. My car is a non-AC car, so I fit the one that would, fit quickly. It's been running well. However, there's some issues with it now. I also noticed that if I revved the car, when I had those issues, if I revved it over about 1500 RPMs, it would make weird sounds, all shattery inside, like castanets or something. It was just not sounding good. So I'm going to have a look at the other used one I have. It sounds pretty good in the bearings. However, it's meant for an AC car, so we have to change some things on it to make it fit, but I think it should be a pretty quick job. Get it fixed, get the car back on the road, and then I'll see if I might probably pick up a rebuild one in the future. But I'm trying to postpone that a little bit because I checked, and getting a rebuilt one right now with shipping and everything all the way here, that's over $300. It's quite a lot, and I know lots of you guys in the States can fit pretty cheap GM alternators. However, all of that is really expensive once it gets here. I live in Sweden, so getting anything shipped over here, it will be really expensive once it gets here. So hopefully the other alternator I have will be good. It sounds good at least, and hopefully we can get it to fit, and hopefully it will work. So let's go to the workbench and have a look at the alternator because I already took it off the car. Okay, so here are 3 alternators I have. They're all Lucas. Let's start by having a look at this one. This one was on the car when I got it, and it was working fine until one day when I noticed also while driving that it wasn't charging at all. I came home, switched the car off, and I turned the ignition back on, and the ignition light in the car did not come on. I made a video about this. I'll put a link to it up above and down below if you want to check that out. That was earlier in the summer, so I think this has a bad diode in it, but it's not extremely noisy, but it's on the noisy side. But I've kept this around just because I can send this off and get it rebuilt. If usually you always have to send off a core, at least the way I found when you get these rebuilt. Also, I had an idea of maybe just trying to replace the diodes in this one and new brushes, and keeping it as a spare, even though it's not a perfect one, but could be good to have as a spare just in case something like this happens. On the weekend you gotta change out an alternator to get to work on Monday. So we're gonna put this one to the side for now. But before that, just notice one thing, that the mounting points on this one are exactly the same as this one. So this is the one I put on the car in the summer. It's a bigger one. All I had to do was move over the connection points here. So this is where the 2 cables go on. This is the exciter. So there's some pretty thick alternator cables in this car from the factory, and they're really good. And they're the same on a 6-cylinder and a 12-cylinder. So a 12-cylinder car has always had bigger alternators. So technically you can fit a more powerful alternator to a 6-cylinder car because it has the same wiring going from the alternator up to the battery. It's the same gauge, so it shouldn't be any issue. So this is the one that just, once it gets up to temperature, it will not really charge anymore. It charges fine when it's completely cold. It goes up to 14 volts, but then after about everything gets up to temperature, it gets noisy and it stops charging. And I noticed now that when I took it off, it's, as you can hear, it's pretty noisy. It wasn't really noisy when I got in the car, but these two alternators I got for free from a friend of the channel who had them laying around, and he dropped them off when I was in a pinch this summer when the alternator failed. So I'm really happy when I got them. It means a lot. However, this one's failed now. Let's move on to the next one, which, first of all, it's not dead silent, but it's definitely good enough for an old alternator. Everything else looks pretty fine. Doesn't look overly rusted or anything. It's been sitting on a part shelf probably for years. However, there's one thing that makes it so you can't bolt this directly to the car. This is from a it's a Lucas was it 20 ACR, which I believe is a 55 or a 65 amp alternator, which is really good. And these were originally fitted to a Series 2 XJ6 with air conditioning. So you got a more powerful alternator with air conditioning because you have more powerful fans, heating and ventilation fans in the car than you have a non-AC car. I have a non-AC car. So then the alternator bolts up higher up on the engine on a non-AC car, and it bolts lower down under the AC compressor on an AC car, which means that the mounting points are not in the exact same place. So if you have a look here, if you imagine that this is the side of the engine, here's the front, here's the fan. So this mounts up this way here, and then here's the adjuster, and then you have the fan belt here, and it sits this way up. However, on a car with AC, it mounts this way. So it sits up here, and then it gets adjusted from below. So you can see that is really only the difference. So my idea is to see if I can turn this over, and I've heard that you can. I've never done it before, but I know several other mechanics who have. So basically you're supposed to loosen these screws here, and then I can gently move this over here so that these two line up here, and this ear goes over here. So it's just like this one, and it will hopefully fit. That's the idea. Let's see if it actually works. These could probably really be stuck on there. Alright, so I felt that those were in there kind of hard, so I put it here in the vise. I've sprayed them with some penetrating fluid and sprayed them one more time. I mean, we have an aluminum casing with steel bolts, so they've been in there for a long time, probably since the 70s. Gonna get a bigger screwdriver. Let's see if we can get them out. Start with this one. Doesn't look too bad. Okay, that one is actually not in there that hard at all. Okay, that one is coming out as well. And this one is the rustiest one, so let's see. Yeah, that's coming out as well. Perfect. Right, I'm just going to loosen them up a little bit more. Take it out of the vise, and let's see if we can turn it and have a look at the other one, make sure I turn it the right way. Got all these bolts out now. This will be fun. I've never done this before. I don't know if you need to tap it or anything, but let's try. So I want to turn it this way. Yeah, cool. It just turns. And okay, everything lines up again. And on the other side here, the nuts are held in place by the casting, so that's quite handy. Okay. I'm not going to tighten anything down fully, just to make sure everything lines up first. Okay, that all looks really good, so I'll just start tightening them down now. Don't Don't really know how tight they're going to be, but I'll just do it, you know, tight enough. And that's the last one. Make sure it still sounds pretty good. Yeah. Just want to check. Okay, I'm going to loosen them one more time because it looks like I have them at a slight angle. So I'm going to loosen them up and get everything squared off, tighten them up, and then let's see if we can fit this to the car. Okay, before I go and fit it to the car, I decided just to remove the rear cover. It was just 2 small screws, just to mostly have a look inside, make sure it didn't, you know, look burned. It didn't smell burnt or anything. It looks completely fine inside. I'm not gonna go into brushes or anything, but nothing looks melted, weird. And also I cleaned up the connections here. This is for the exciter, and that's the 2 main positive connections there, just to clean them up with some light memory cloth and some contact cleaner. So they should be nice and clean now. Just put this cover back on, and now let's head over to the car. So the Daimler and VA S-Type are blocking my workshop. We're just down in my storage unit. I don't really have any lights set up in here, just, you know, enough to move cars around. So there's a flashlight down here, so I hope you guys will be able to see at least a little bit what I plan on doing. So here's that mounting bracket. Here is the adjuster. So there's supposed to be a long bolt. Here is that one. Okay, there we go. Alright, that did not go too well. See, I realized something now, that the size of the pulleys are different on the alternator. So the one I want to fit is a lot bigger than the other ones I have. See, alright, and let's compare it to this one. That's quite different. So my fan belt didn't want to fit. So I'm gonna got this one off here, off the first Lucas I had on. The other one I just had on there, this would not budge, and it doesn't really matter. They are the same size. This size is the same as the one I just took off. So this is loose now. I'm just going to remove this one. See if I can do the same thing. Just take the top pulley off and leave the fan on. Keep the original fan with this one. Put the smaller pulley on. And then we'll be back in the workshop. Or I mean back over at the car. Okay, should be all off now. That went pretty easily. Hopefully this one is... It's not the same size. Okay, it's a while later. Some things have happened off camera, and I will admit that at the moment I am defeated. But that happens sometimes. As you know on this channel, I don't always show when things go well. I show when things don't go to plan as well. So I did not even think about there being different pulley sizes. Didn't occur to me until I tried to fit it, and that pulley is just a lot bigger. It's not that big of a difference like in the groove, but just around it, it's quite big of a difference. So I can't get the fan belt on. I also tried fitting the fan belt first and then trying to get the mounting bolt through, sort of wedging it, and I got the bolt through halfway, and I realized that no, that was not a good idea either. So I took that off. I fit the one I had on earlier, the failing one. And because one thing I did notice when I took it off, which I forgot to mention, is that the fan belt was a little bit loose. It wasn't loose enough to maybe to not charge perfectly, but it was a little bit loose, and maybe at higher RPMs it was slipping a little bit, so I don't know. But I did run the car for a bit. I haven't gone for a drive. I just let it idle for 15 minutes or so with everything on. Heater on max, heated rear window, windshield wipers, main beams, everything. And it didn't go in the red. I put a multimeter on it. It still stayed at around very close to 14 volts or so. So at the moment it's working. It's a little bit on the noisy side, so it's definitely going out. So I will look for a solution if it is getting a remanufactured one, sending one of these off, getting it remanufactured. Fortunately, I don't have any place local that will rebuild them with new bearings and stuff, because it's not an issue with just brushes and stuff. It's bearings. It needs to be rebuilt. So that's one solution. Another solution is, of course, just to get a longer fan belt and get the other one to fit. So I'm going to see if I can get a hold of a longer fan belt as well and maybe get the other one to fit. But I will have to, well, like I did, put the old alternator on so I can get to the other parts store. I think I'll be able to drive there and back, no issues, even though if I have some issues with the car. Even if the alternator were to seize, I could cut the fan belt and probably get home with just a minimum amount of lights, no heat and nothing else, and just, I think I should be able to get home. You can drive pretty far with these old cars. They're very simple. There's no computers, no nothing. It's just a small little fuel pump and, you know, electronic ignition. But I think you can get pretty far with just a good battery. So, yeah, didn't really go as I planned in this video, but that happens sometimes. And a little bit different, a little bit, you know, different video this week. I've been quite busy with the Daimler. There's some videos coming up on that, like I mentioned. But I've also been really busy working on the Christmas special, which will air on the first Saturday of December, which, off the top of my head, I believe is the 5th or the 6th of December. So, that's something that I'm really looking forward to. At least I filmed part 1. Patrons have already gotten a little bit sneak peek of it. They seem really excited about it, so I hope that you guys will really enjoy it as well. It's going to be something a little bit different than what I usually do, but I think you guys will really enjoy it as well. Also, later this week, on Thursday, the Living with Classic merchandise store is going to open. So if you want to support the channel by getting a hoodie, a mug, a t-shirt, and we're probably going to have stickers ready by then as well. It will open on Thursday. I will mention it in the Thursday video. It will be, I'll put links in the community tabs as well. So you can go in there if you want to support the channel. Anyway, so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. And until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.